Hello guys, welcome back to another episode here on European Confessions. There is a message that I want to share with you guys. This message, it comes from a message that I once received from our dear sister. Then we had to title a message, "My Fathers Tokishes drank up my husband's blood." So she sent me another message. Then I had to ask one of our admins to give us a translation. This is the translation of the message that she sent to me. The message reads like this: "Hello, my brother. How are you? I once wrote to you concerning my father, whom I said was a ritualist and who had a lot of tokoloshes that he used for all of the evil charms that he used to perform. There is something that I want to clear up. Yes, we were so poor and we grew up in so much poverty that me being a nurse like I turned out to be was only possible by the grace of God. What I can tell my Christian brothers and sisters is that it is not everyone who is a ritualist is a wealthy man. My father was such a man. He was so poor. He didn't have anything in life, but you will never understand why my father kept on hanging on to his tokoloshes, because on that compound where we used to stay at that farm, if we would try to have even chickens, those chickens will die without ever laying an egg. It seemed as if my father had made a deal with the devil himself, but he didn't do that deal to be rich, but to just bewitch people. My father, he was so poor, yet he kept on holding on to his tokoloshes that he had. Even when I got married, my husband's family, for a little bit of time, they were a really supportive family. But as for my father, instead of him being happy that his daughter was slowly crawling out of the hole that we were stuck in of poverty for all of our lives, my father actually was really angry as to how I was succeeding in my life. My father wanted all of his children to die poor as he was. What my father used to do is that whenever we would go to the place where we used to grow our crops, I still remember that my father, he used to point at this other certain tree which was close to our field. Whenever he would point at that tree, then he would say to us, "My children, when I die, I want you to bury me just underneath that tree. And when all of you have died, I want us to be buried here on this farm." This was my father's dream. He didn't want any of his children to move out of the farm. He thought that the only life that we were supposed to live was the poverty-stricken life that he was living. I still remember this other story that happened when we were still young. My late brother was someone who loved to play soccer. So there was a tournament where he was supposed to go to on this other farm. So what they had been told was that each and every player was supposed to buy their own soccer kit. My father didn't have the money, and one night as we were sitting by the fire, my father then said, "No child of his will ever leave the farm." And my father had a very big argument with my same brother, who later passed away, because my brother, he was not only a soccer player, but he was a talented banjo guitar player. He used to make a lot of those banjo guitars. So he kept on saying that one day, if he was going to have enough money, he will travel to Harare and join a jazz band. And my father, on that night, as we were sitting by the fire, declared that such a thing will never happen in this lifetime and in the next lifetime. So my brother, what he then did is that he started going into the bushes like he used to, and whenever he would go into the bushes, him and his friend, they would set some traps for field mice. Back home, we used to call these mice mbeva. This kind of a mouse is different from that gray one, the one that you can find in the house. So my brother and his friend, they used to catch these field mice, then dry them up and sell them at the local beer hall. and the little money that he got, he tried to save that money, but unfortunately he could not buy that soccer kit that was needed for him to go to that tournament in time. But his team felt sorry for him, so they allowed him to get onto the tractor so that they can go with him to that soccer tournament, because tractors, those were the only means of transport that we had on the farms. They left so early in the morning. They traveled well until my father woke up. When my father woke up and found out what had happened, he then took a stone. Then he threw that stone violently in the direction in which that tractor was headed to. When it was late at night, that is when we saw the tractor returning back. And when that tractor came back, it was being pulled by another tractor. My brother, as I sat down with him, asking him what exactly had happened, then my brother told me everything that had happened. He said that when he had left, as soon as he got onto the tractor, he saw a squirrel running in front of him. And according to our culture, if you see one crossing your path, you are supposed to turn back, because we believed that wherever you will be going to, you will have bad luck. My brother, being afraid of being left behind because he wanted to participate in that soccer tournament, he kept quiet and he didn't tell anyone what he had seen. And as they traveled, my brother said that he suddenly looked back and he saw that my father was chasing after the tractor. After that, that is when there was a big explosion. The tractor's engine had knocked. That is how they got stuck and they failed to reach their destination. Just as my father had told my late brother. My brother, when he went to Harare in search of work at this other certain nightclub, my father used to go to this other certain tree and tie that red cloth around the branch of that tree. And the moment when that red cloth would fall off from that tree, you will see my brother returning back home. And when you will be returning back home, you will be having nothing. And you will be complaining that when he was trying to look for a better opportunity in his life, it seemed as if wherever he was going, bad luck was following him. But I know that my father was the one who was responsible for all of these things that were happening to my brother. It was like my father had sold his soul to the spirit of poverty in exchange for nothing. But on that farm and the other surrounding farms, it was not only my father who was like this. Most of the people whom we stayed with on that farm and the other people that stayed on the surrounding farms, most of them growing up, we knew that they had Tokoloshes. People who grew up on farms, maybe they will understand me, the kind of a condition that you will be faced with when you have grown up in the farms. My father had his charms not for money, but to fight with his co-workers on that farm where we were staying. And he used to fight with his neighbors. We used to wake up and we would see a baboon just standing by the place where we kept all of our firewood. And this baboon, growing up, we used to hear a lot of stories. And the stories that we heard was that this baboon, it belonged to this other certain woman who had worked for that white farmer for a very, very long time. She was quite an old woman. Even though she was past her retirement age, she kept on working for that white farmer as the maid. And whenever that baboon would appear in the compound, or komboni, we used to call it komboni instead of compound, a person will die whenever that baboon will suddenly appear walking around the compound. That baboon, it was not even scared of the dogs that were there. It was not even scared of people. It would just walk past the compound, and within a couple of months, then someone will die. The reason why all of these people had all of these charms, it was because the environment that they found themselves in. When you are working in the farm, it is like you do not have any right at all it is all about pleasing the farmer. So if the farmer would smile at you, it can even make someone that you'll be working with to feel jealous for you, and they can end up destroying your life simply because the boss has smiled at you. It was not about money. It was about trying to please the boss as much as you can. So that is why our fathers used to fight against each other using all of those charms. And my father, he had all of these tokoloshes because he said that when he was still a young man, all that he ever wanted to do was to drive the tractor. When he started working at that farm, he said that he was given this other lucky oil bottle that had some oil inside that bottle. In that lucky oil bottle, he then later lost it. And when he lost that oil bottle, it changed and it became a tokoloshi or a chikwambo. In English, this thing, it is a spirit of a dead person that is raised up from the dead to do evil on behalf of its master. My father was not even shameful to sleep with his own daughters using a charm called gondwa or ombobobo, whereby a man sleeps with a woman using black magic. As we grew older, me and my sisters, sometimes we would wake up almost in the middle of the night and we would hear my mother accusing our father of being a shameless man who sleeps with his own daughters. I only understood this later because growing up, I always felt that whenever my father would start to tap his legs, like if you would be busy doing your house chores, then your father, if he was sitting close by or fixing his bicycle, because most of the times this is what my father used to do, sitting under the tree as you will be doing your chores. So as you will be doing your chores, if we would see our father tapping his leg while he's looking at you, then suddenly you will feel that a man will be having intercourse with you. Because we were still young, we could not even understand this thing that was happening to us until when one day my mother thought that all of us, we had gone out to fetch water for the house. But at that time, my sister, she was now into dating. She was dating this other guy. So she would take each and every opportunity to go and spend some time with her boyfriend. So whenever we would go to fetch water, she would then ask me if I would let her to go fetch water by herself so that she can spend some time with her boyfriend. When I stayed behind, I didn't want my mother to know that I had stayed behind because she would ask me to do some house chores. I was feeling so sleepy and lazy on that day. As I was hiding from my parents, I clearly then heard my mother saying to my father that if you keep on using your gondwa waturuka on your daughters, they will find it hard to fall pregnant or even to get married. And my father admitted that he had lost control of his tokoloshes. He said, I can't control it anymore. From that day, when my parents found out that I had heard my father confessing, that is when I saw that my father became more lenient with me and he allowed me to have a little bit of success. And when I left home, I then sought refuge in church, knowing the kind of a hell that I had left behind. About the money, my parents, they earned no money, but they did what was called food for work. The way that they used to get the money was by working extra time around the surrounding farms, but the money was just close to nothing. So my father and the other men on that compound, they would go and do some extra jobs just to get money so that they can go to the beer hall and drink some beer and gamble amongst themselves. When I arrived in Harare, my father then persecuted me spiritually by visiting me in my sleep and having intercourse with me. And when I would wake up, I would see a rat leaving my room. And I knew that this was my father, because when I was still back at the farm, this is what used to happen to us. Because whenever we would be sleeping, when you have a dream and in that dream you'll be having intercourse with a man, when you would wake up, you will see a rat that will be just hanging from the walls. That rat will be looking at you. So we knew that So I knew that this was my father who was spiritually attacking me, because the people who have this charm that is called Gondwa, this is what they do. They do become like rats so that they can enter into the house of the woman that they want to sleep with. And after sleeping with that woman, they will become a rat again and leave the house. And you, as a woman who would have received this spiritual attack, you will only be dreaming as if you are making love to the man of your dreams or the man that you think you love, not knowing that black magic is being done on you. Lot of stories happened to me, my brother, when I was still on that farm. Dear listeners, right there was a message that was sent to me by one of our dear sisters. Then I had to ask one of our admins to give us a translation. Strange things do happen in this world.